Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel. This is, oh, excuse me, terrible start. This is the big match preview. My name is Louis Mendes. Hope you guys are all well on your Thursday evening tonight. Then we'll be looking back at the EFL Trophy defeat against Leyton Orient, and of course ahead to Saturday's home game with Mansfield. Joining me to do just that. First up, top right, it's Tom Wanlin. How you doing, Tom?
I'm all right, I suppose. Yeah. How are you?
Yeah, I was losing my voice, it turns out, as I found out in the very first few seconds of the show, and not a minute before that. Yeah, not too bad. Also joining us bottom of the screen is Mark Newbury. How do you, Mark?
I'm okay, mate. If I suddenly disappear, it's because I'm waiting on an Amazon delivery. So I am here, but just letting you know.
That'll be my Christmas present, I assume. Excellent. Lovely stuff. Right, so as I said on tonight's show, we'll look back at the game with Leyton Orient. The Addicks dumped out of the EFL Trophy by the O's in midweek. We're going to hear the reaction to that game of the Addicks boss, Nathan Jones. We'll hear from a Mansfield fan as we start to look ahead to the game on Saturday. Clive from Mansfield Matters is due to join us. We'll hear from Nathan Jones again as we look ahead to that contest as well. I want to go say good evening to everyone who's joining us live in the chat this evening. David's in there asking if Mansfield any former Charlton players with them. Well, yeah, as Colin points out, they got Deji Oshalaja. He's going to wreak havoc as he often does when he comes back to the Valley. John joins us. Mike Salmon's in there. Sam's in there. Keith, Ray, all hell let loose. Loads of you in there. Let us know your thoughts on Tuesday's defeat. One of the most one-sided defeats I think we've ever seen in terms of the stats at the Valley. Let us know what you made of Nathan Jones's comments after. We'll hear my interview with Nathan later on in the show. And yeah, your thoughts ahead of Mansfield. Where do we go now? How do we try and get ourselves back on the right track before Saturday's game with the Stags? Before we go any further, let's just remind ourselves of what happened on Tuesday night. These are the goals from Charlton TV. Steve Brown was alongside Terry Smith.
Aguiai, he's got Brown overlapping on his right-hand side and Kelman to his left. Still Aguiai coming towards the edge of the area. Kelman on the left. Kelman with the shot. And it's gone in off of, I think that's Langaretabua. It's hit him and gone in. And Orient take the lead with 2.5 minutes of added time remaining.
Yeah, I think it could be small, actually.
Yeah, I didn't quite see on that near post. Maynard Brewer was blocking my view. It could have been.
I mean, you can't... it's the manner of which the goals come about. You know, it's our throwing deep into your Orient half, and you have to scratch your head how Leyton Orient have got a 3v2 on the counter-attack from our throw.
Kelman in the box. Aguiai still in possession. Into the penalty area he comes, looking to get his left foot shot away and buries it, and that's game over.
Yeah, and again, that's that's from our throw-in and our free kick, 2 counter-attacking goals, but that's a wonderful break down the right-hand side.
There we go, just brief look back at the goals from Tuesday, Tom. I'm about to put the stats up on the bottom of the screen. There we go. I mean, they were quite stark. I tweeted about 2 minutes before the end of the 90 that Leyton Orient on another day could have had 4 at that point, and that was before they went on to score the 2 goals after. Now it's 9 changes. You know, it's a competition that none of us particularly care about too much, but sometimes the performance in that competition can raise further alarm bells. Sometimes you say raise alarm bells, but these are obviously further alarm bells now. It's another difficult performance. Yeah, it was a terrible performance. We were, as Gary says, it was a terrible performance. We were completely outplayed. We had a couple of moments here and there, but I've never seen us get carved open that much. It was rubbish.
Yeah, I was on paper delighted that we're out of it because, as you say, I think we don't need that tournament. I don't like the tournament. I don't think we need it. So if you're just looking at cold hard facts, that's great, but we're a team that needs to sort these performances out. And as you say, sometimes that can breed the confidence, but we've won every game in that tournament up till now, and we've still struggled in the league. So it wasn't working when we were winning games, and now we're out. We'll see whether that makes any difference as well. So you put the result to one side and then you look at the performance. And as you say, that's the most worrying thing, because second half against Crawley, obviously poor. Now, I know Lincoln, we can't quite write it off, but circumstances and the weather and everything just made that an awful game generally. And actually, it was the one game where we tried to get the ball down and move it a little bit more just because we had no choice, really. But you look at particularly the second 45 against Crawley last week and then the full 90 plus against Leyton Orient, and that plus being important, obviously, with the goals. And it's just exactly as Glove Pups put in the chat, just lackluster. It just never looks like we're going to score, does it? And when the opposition, we've defended well at times this season, and Nathan has sort of not hidden behind that, but used that as a reason to be positive, and rightly so in certain areas, because defensive solidity is a good thing, and it's a miles away from where we were last year. But when the opposition has 26 shots and 10 of them on target, you can't even hide behind that anymore. And as you say, it could have been more. We could have lost 4 or 5-0. You also look at the way the goals were conceded. We heard it with Steve Brown there in the commentary, a throw-in that we then get sort of counted on and lose. And then the free kick from Terry Taylor. And then he's obviously involved a bit later on in the same move. 2 just very, very straightforward goals for the opposition to score. How many times have we done that to the opposition this season? I can't think of a single time. Maybe once, maybe, where we've carved an opposition open like that and flown forward and taken advantage of that. We're relying on scrappy goals. We're relying on very, very fine margins. And it's not that much different to what I said on last Thursday's show after reviewing Crawley, where unless that improves, we're not getting out of this division anytime soon.
No, we're not getting out of this division this season. I think, been through that already. But Mark, Tuesday's game, what did it say to you? Like I said, some people might look at the amount of changes that we made, but as well as a couple of youngsters, obviously Dixon got his start, Langer, Etabua played well, but overall there were some pretty senior players in that side as well. And we just turned in, even for us, it was a bizarre performance because we don't tend to get carved open that much. But that was just relentless. It was like 90 minutes of being carved open. It was odd, and really concerning.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they had a striker who could finish, we'd have been 5 down at half time. It was, for every time they went forward, it was just seemed chance after chance after chance. And I'm to be honest, it's two days ago, and I'm still angry about it. And it takes a lot for me to get angry over football, because I generally try and be a bit sort of like middle of a road over it, and don't get too excited, too upset. But after watching that on Tuesday, and it was painful. There was so much wrong across that pitch. The midfield, I'd like to say, I think young Josh was the only bright bit of that, and he was the only one who looked like he cared, the only one who looked like he was trying. I felt a bit sorry for Dixon. He just looked a bit out of his depth on that side. But the rest of them, and the excuses after the game from Nathan, I thought were so poor, and so he was lucky to go in at half-time 0-0. Now, what he should have done is at half-time absolutely ripped him a new one, made 3 changes straight from the off, said, right, you're off, and try and get them motivated. If anything, we came out of the second half worse. And when he brought on sort of like Taylor and Campbell, Campbell did his normal running around. Taylor wasn't his normal sort of like self to it. And there wasn't another gear. Godden looked lost on that side. Leeburn can't be asked to run. And defensively, it's just like, oh, goodness me. I mean, I know Potts has been out injured and Reg, but I can't pick up it. Ash distribution, kicking it out. It seemed to be it was a competition at one moment where who could kick it out for throws and push it out all the time. It's so frustrating. And it's always okay, but it's a cup we weren't interested in. Yeah, but it's still a game Charlton Athletic have played in, and anyone who pulls on that shirt should have an ounce of pride. And I think only young Josh can probably take his shirt off and go, they're sweating that. The rest of them, I mean, Teo Eden, honestly, I must have a blue badge to park with, because he just doesn't get around that pitch. And I honestly, this would literally be all bleeps. If I was a swearer, this would literally be all bleeps. And I think most of the people who saw that game, who watched it or were there, probably couldn't believe it, thinking, oh no, it's going to get better in a minute. No, it's not going to get better. We got what we deserved. I mean, Orient could have run out 10-0 winners, and fair play to them. And it's, I think games like this are important because we can blood some youngsters, but afterwards for Jones to come out and say, well, look at the squad I inherited. I'm thinking, really? Look at all the Luton players you've been picking up. And, no one has shone. And you've got jobs for your mates, and then you can't. I honestly cannot see him turning this around. And I know, we've had this discussion week in, week out about, oh no, don't change your manager. We've become that club again. Have we moved on in the time we've been here? And the answer after that performance on Tuesday is no, we haven't moved on, not one iota. And that's the worrying thing.
We look at the goals we conceded on Tuesday, Tom. There's so much that's come out of what Mark had to say there. The post-match comments will come to as well, because obviously we've got the interview which I'm going to play. But I mean, the goals, the way I mean, Brownie said it himself. The way we conceded that first one, like I think we felt like we gave it away twice in their half when we had a chance, and obviously we get back. I think it's gone in off small. But I mean, the second one in particular. I mean, how many chances do we need to stop Dan Ajay? Now, he's a good player, Dan Ajay. I think he had his injury problems when he first went to the O's, and he's a good player. But still, you got to not allow. You can't have him run half the length of the pitch. I mean, Maka had two bites of that cherry to try and get a block in, and it just felt like we got nowhere near him.
Absolutely, it was catalogue of errors. I mean, the free kick in the first place obviously dropped short, and then they get on the ball. But from that point, there's so much to do, or should be so much to do, to score a goal at the other end of the pitch. And actually, when you watch it back, and the more you watch it back, he doesn't actually have that much to do. And as you say, he's a good player, so fair play to him. But no one gets anywhere near him. They're disorganised, they're played through, they're run through, lots of people criticising midfield, and we've spoken a lot about the midfield. The midfield is not there. And I appreciate at this stage we're 1-0 down, so obviously you're pushing on. But then you have still got defenders back there, but he just runs at them and they sit off as well. And how many times have we heard Nathan Jones say, oh, we're only beaten from long range. We're only beaten from long range. Well, with most of the goals that we have been beaten from long range, you would argue there's been opportunities to close people down. But if we're going to count this one as a long ranger, we start about 60 yards out of goal, and you've got opportunities to close them down from 60 yards all the way through to the finish, and nobody does it. So there's so much wrong. Again, it goes back to what I said last Thursday about everything being wrong. And there I was talking more about the club and the areas off the pitch as well as on. But and Nathan sort of addressed that today, didn't he, in his press conference, where he said, look, we've got a foundation underneath the results. But ultimately, the performances and results are the main thing here. And even that, I mean, there were so many errors with that second goal. If they do go into training on Wednesday or Thursday and they're looking at that goal, who comes out of it well? And nobody even comes out of it neutral. There are things that every single player could be doing better in that to stop it. And this is, with no disrespect to them, this is Leyton Orient. This isn't an FA Cup game against a Premier League side where we've been torn apart, and you go, fair enough. You look when we went up to Old Trafford in the League Cup. Okay, scoreline by the end sort of reflected badly on us, but we dug in and we worked hard, and we got on the ball, and we even moved the ball around at some points against Premier League opposition. And in this, we're coming up against a Leyton Orient side who, as I say, are not that. And yet they just ran through us time and time again. So I understand why we're focusing on the goal, but it's not that moment alone. This happened throughout the game where they had opportunities like that, and the closing down, the tackling, the positioning, it was all just way too easy for them.
So 9 changes then, Mark. So there were a couple of young, like I was just saying, Kahim Dixon got his first start. Probably answered a few people's questions as to why he hasn't been starting too often. He's probably not quite ready yet. And like we said, Langarettabua looked good on the day. Did okay. But overall, I mean, that's still a pretty senior squad. And this is the thing. We'll hear the interview very shortly. You mentioned about the comments about inheriting a side, but you'll hear in the interview. I said, well, like. Basically, the central part of that midfield was Berry and Doherty. So when he said inherited, I said, well, the 2 players you brought to the club, Berry and Doherty, have they done enough for you this season then? I mean, that's no excuse really for that sort of level of performance. And being carved open to that extent sort of comes through the midfield, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. I mean, Doherty. Oh, we could go until midnight with me ranting about Doherty and what he doesn't bring to the club. And I get a bit annoyed. Understatement. I get annoyed. When you're looking on social media and they're complaining about Dobson and May being gone and that, they're gone. There's no point. You can bring up players from years ago. They're gone, and we haven't replaced them with the kind of quality we needed. We needed that tenacious ball winner who's just going to track all over the pitch. We don't have that. Doherty doesn't know what he's doing. Dixon, I felt sorry for, because he's obviously following instructions to stay out on the wide right. And, well, I think if you've seen Dixon play, for the reserves and stuff, he's a bit more floating 10. And he gets on the ball a bit more and can swap sides. At no time did they swap sides, because it was just him, and he couldn't beat the guy, but didn't have the experience to say, maybe I'll go in a bit deeper or I'll drop back a bit deeper. I mean, he ran, he tried. Is it too early for him? Yeah, probably it is. I mean, I've been one of the people saying, I would give him a chance. And you're right, it does answer some questions. Young Josh, again. But, you've got Potts and Reg at the back. Both talkers, communicators, nothing. Small didn't beat anybody. And if he did, he then put the ball out. And then in midfield, I say, Eden, oh, goodness me, it was painful watching him. He played how I would play if I was at midfield, and I'm a 55-year-old fat chef. So, and I'm thinking, you don't expect a professional footballer to just wander around and just look so pointlessly lost in a job, but they just look confused. Godden and Leyburn. And Leyburn was still saying, he's not fit. Didn't look interested. And I think this probably would have been the game to stick gas in if you had a chance. And give Leyburn that rest if he's still not back up to fitness. So I don't know. It's just too much of that game just hurt my eyes to watch. And every time the ball went past and they had chances and they've skied it or put it over or whatever, you're thinking that could have quite easily been in if you come up against a decent striker. Imagine sort of like the Jordan Rhodes. He'd be doing it. He'd have 6. He'd have 2 hat-tricks by half time and have a pie and a pint. So
lovely stuff. Right, I share the relief that Joe had there when you followed up the words 55-year-old with chef, because I didn't know where that was going. Right, let's have a listen to my interview with Nathan Jones after Tuesday's game. We'll come back and react to this after as well. Pete, against Orient tonight, what did you make of the performance?
I thought we were really poor. I really do. I thought we're nowhere near good enough on any area of the pitch. Thierry I thought was good first half. I thought Josh Lack for his full debut was excellent, and I thought Matty Gordon showed glimpses, but apart from that, poor all over.
Why was it so off tonight? I don't think I've seen your team get carved open like that all season.
I can't remember. With the greatest respect, I played against Man City and they didn't have a shot on target. They had 3 shots when we played Man City. So to have 16, 17 shots against you playing, and again with greatest respect, Leyton Orient, it's baffling. But we made 9 changes. A lot of players who hadn't played, Potts, Reg, people hadn't played, and that showed tonight because we were so far off it.
Was there anyone in particular who you thought at least gave you some indication that they're pushing for a first team place after?
Well, look, I thought Thierry was good first half. He was a threat going down the left hand side, but every time we turned the ball over, they looked like they can score, and that, whether that was desire, athleticism, structure, whatever that was, we were so far off tonight. We really were, and we are statistically the best side in the league defensively. But you'd never have thought that tonight.
Yeah, does that concern you, that performance tonight? What does it tell you about the players that have come in?
Well, I've learned a lot tonight.
What does it tell you about the squad as well? Because obviously people look at the squad as a whole and need to be able to swap players in and out if you're going to be pushing in League One this season.
Well, yeah, but we've shown the way we have made changes. They've been good. It's the first cup game we've lost, and we have made changes in pretty much every cup game and stuff. So that's fine. Credit to Leyton Orient. Leyton Orient much better than us tonight. But I have learnt about some tonight. Look, there's a squad I inherited, players I inherited that you can't change everything overnight, and that's proved today. I've learnt a lot tonight.
What did you make of Kaheem Dixon? You gave him his first start today to come off after about an hour or so.
He shows glimpses, but it was very difficult when so many people are off it tonight. It's difficult when someone comes in and makes their debut and they're, haven't been used to English football and everything. It's very difficult for him tonight to make an impact because of everything else that was around him. And I think he was just part and parcel of a poor performance. That's all.
Does this also show why sometimes when a player comes in from a different climate, that sometimes it takes a while to get up to maybe the physicality and the strength of English football?
Well, even if you're out, I mean, there's people tonight that were way off it individually that have been here for a considerable amount of time. So you have to get rhythm, you have to get thing. And we we took a gamble making 9 changes in this competition, and it backfired tonight, because to be fair, we were second best tonight all over. And even when you think we're going to take it to penalties because we've rode our luck and so on, we then show naivety, and from a throw in and from one throw in, and then from our own sort of free kick, we can see 2 goals on the counter. But to be fair, every time we turned the ball over, they looked like they could score.
In that midfield, you had some pretty experienced names, like Berry and Doherty. Were they part of that performance tonight? And have they shown perhaps enough this season for you?
Look, I think tonight it was a really poor team performance all over. So it was very difficult for any individual to really excel because of the collective, and the collective wasn't good enough tonight.
And particularly those 2 obviously senior players that you brought into the club, would you expect them to be able to almost drag the team performance together?
Well, I wouldn't say you have to expect those 2 to drag the team performance together. It was a whole, all over. No man's a miracle worker in terms of stuff. People showed glimpses, showed energy, showed certain things, certain players. At times, certain players showed well, but as a team, we weren't good enough tonight. All over, and that's why we got beaten.
You mentioned obviously Potts there, who's coming, hasn't played as much as perhaps he would have wanted, but he's coming up to the end of his deal now. Are you sort of at a stage where you're thinking about what might happen next for him and for Danny Hilton
absolutely.
as well?
We're constantly thinking about those things because the window's coming up. We go into it now. We're approaching that, so we'll have to make decisions on everyone.
Have you entered conversations with them about extending or anything like that?
No, not yet.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks.
There you go. That's Nathan Jones speaking to myself after Tuesday night. So he wouldn't really get sucked into the bits where I'm asking about if if some of those players he's brought in have been good enough, Tom, the likes of Berry and Doherty, but it almost goes without saying. So Charlie saying it's interesting he doesn't believe his captains should influence the game. Also, not quite what he said, but he's also saying, I asked him, should these senior players not be the ones to drag the team together and perform? And he did effectively say no there, which is what Charlie put. Well, they should be, shouldn't they? They're the senior players in this squad, and they are the ones that he brought in.
Yeah, on both those points. And it's funny, isn't it, that you and Tel, and obviously it's different for Tel working for the club, but you get asked to ask these questions all the time, and then when you get an opportunity to, he doesn't really bother answering them anyway, or certainly doesn't give an answer that gives anybody enough clarity. So, yeah, it's difficult. We obviously rated the players, didn't we, a few weeks ago in terms of those that have come in and made an impact, and I think we were probably on the generous side, but we were obviously in a more positive stage at that point, although I don't think we were way over the top anyway. But yeah, someone like Doherty, when he came in and when we were talking about him pre-season, he gets given the captaincy, and we've heard him say stuff after games. You think, okay, there's a bit of a leader in there. He talks well. He fronts up when things go wrong. I know Nath on our show was really excited about seeing what he could offer. We just haven't seen it. As I said several times this season, look at what Luke Berry's done in the past. He's an accomplished player, but maybe his legs have just gone. So I think Nathan Jones, a few people saying politicians' answers, that's exactly what it was. It was politically answered, but I don't really know where he goes unless he's going to try and deny that he had any involvement in signing those players. And I know we had a big debate about that on Sunday's show or last Thursday's show when I was on. But it's just difficult all round, isn't it? When results go this way, you've got to look for someone to blame. And I think he's right, by the way, that on Tuesday, every single player was at fault because it was an awful team performance. But that doesn't mean you can't call out those individuals. Now, what he's doing behind the scenes might be different. I don't know. But if he's trying to defend them as signings or he's trying to defend their performances, that's an issue, because I don't think either of those two things can at the moment be defended based on the way they're playing. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. But players like that, as fans, you're looking to players like that. The likes of George Dobson last year, and I know Mark said, look, he's gone now, and I'm not raising this point at the fact that he's left, but you could go back through plenty of seasons, all the way back to when Jacko was here for his playing days. There was always one or two players on the pitch you knew would drag us through. Jason Pearce was the same. As I say, George Dobson last year was the same. There's always been players in this squad that just aren't going to give up. Even when we're losing 2 or 3-0 in a tournament none of us care about, they still give their all. there's been games this season, and I think Tuesday was a culmination of that, where it just looked like they didn't care. And I'm not accusing them of not caring, because I don't know that that's the case, but that's how it looks as fans. And when that starts to happen, you worry. And yeah, you're potentially in big trouble, because if he's lost them as well, again, going back to everything we spoke about last week, and I don't want Jones to be sacked yet, but if the players have lost him or he's lost them, then that position becomes untenable. And if we lose this weekend, he'll be bang in trouble.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, someone said in the chat a minute ago that it'd be untenable if we lose Saturday. Chris said Garner signed Swindon players and they were gone. Managers will sign players they worked with at previous clubs, but again, these Luton players haven't worked out, and that's part of it, though. That's part of the problem, you know. And we said it quite a bit this season. Part of the issue, I think, is that, you know, Jones really did have a lot of sway on the recruitment this summer. You know, it's quite clear with the players that came in, but that was also the noises coming out of the club in the summer as well. I'm not, you know, we haven't plucked that from nowhere. And yeah, it puts the club in a bit of an awkward position. They've probably given him too much. And then you look at where we have been with recruitment previously, and under Andy Scott, the recruitment wasn't much better, was it? So yeah, where do we go from here? I mean, a couple of emails. Ray's sort of talking about how the frustrating it was on Tuesday. So the only positive was confirming his personal thoughts on Kaheem Dixon. He's not quite ready yet. But he says Jones stated we'd be amongst the fittest teams this season, but it doesn't appear to be the case. Says he's glad that we're out of the cup competition, but it was helpful to blood. Some of the youngsters, says no one sees on form. The constant changes to the team is making it harder. Hopeful, but not expecting that we can hang in there until the new year and invest in an attacking player or two. He says he doesn't think that Jones has lost the dressing room yet, but is in danger of losing the fan base more because of the style of play than the actual results. Well, I wonder if that's gotten for a lot of people already, to be honest. Billy's saying, can't help but feel fan backlash is one of the biggest issues for us and calls for Nathan Jones to be sacked or thoughtless. As soon as our fans turn, it gets toxic and things crumble every single time. I can't for the life of me understand why people see that the issues lie deeper than the manager. We currently cannot attract the standard of players we need purely because of previous ownership and current budget. Nathan has to start and build a base, and it will take 2 to 3 seasons to start to move towards where he wants to be. I mean, is he going to get that time, Mark, with us? Like I say, if he loses the fans, then I don't think, you know, he's been in charge for, well, he came in February, so he's coming up to 9-10 months. Obviously, he's had one window so far. But, I mean, if the performances are so far off it, you know, as Rustos says there, he's already lost the fan base. That's obvious. His way of playing is shocking, and the players are awful. I mean, is there a way? How do you turn this around? Because the performances have gone backwards.
I have zero confidence in him doing it. I really do. And I get what people are saying about, you know, blame the players, not the manager. But he came in, you know, blew his own trumpet. And I've got to go back to the point he made about, oh, Man City played and they didn't have a shot. Sorry, was he managing Charlton when he played Man City? No, he wasn't. So what is the relevance to that? I don't get that. It made no relevance. And I've got to slightly disagree with Tom about the players not caring. If you watch that second goal and Gillespie came on as a sub, so it's not like he'd played all 90 minutes. Was he absolutely busting the gut to take the guy out, track back, do everything? No, he wasn't. I know it's the end of a game, but there was no one putting any effort in at all. And that comes down to caring. It really comes down to caring. And with Jones, I've got no qualms about him going, because we beat Mansfield. Fine. I can't remember who we've got after that. We lose to them. It's for consistency. And he said, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to build a base. He's going to build a base for Danny Hilton. I know he got Hilton in as a coach, but he's been playing him. What? None of the kids of the under 21s worth going on the bench? No, it's if you're building a base with Luke Berry and Alan Campbell. No, you're not. It's I can take it. I can take losing if you see effort, if you see commitment, and you say, you know, hold your hands up. They were a better team than us, but they were a better team than us. They all over the pitch. They shouldn't have been. They shouldn't have been. And, you know, the players coming in, I'm thinking, if I'm Reg or Potts or any of those people, and they're thinking, right, I've got a chance now because Gillespie hasn't really set the world alight. So centre backs, you're going to go with Mitchell and Jones when they're both fit, but who are you going to go with after that? I want him to be, you know, my name he thinks of I need a centre half who's going to do a job. No one's put themselves down for knocking on his door and saying I want to play, and they just look confused a lot of the time. And he can stand on that touchline and wave his arms around and try and direct them as much as he likes. The histrionics, for me, have just been pointless because there's been nothing come from it.
Well, we had a message from South Park actually. Says he sat in the West Stand. He said for the first time the level of micromanagement of the players is unbelievable. Is it hindering them, or is that bad? I mean, at the start of the season, I remember thinking in pre-season, sitting behind him at Dartford, well, it's quite fascinating to watch the demands he puts on the players. But yeah, you never really know. It's obviously the complete opposite of what Michael Appleton was like on the touchline. Just a couple more emails. So we had Billy saying not to sack the manager. We've got Philip saying it's time for Scott and Jones to go. So Andy Scott and obviously Nathan Jones. Nathan only did well at Luton. His record at Stoke and Southampton was terrible. Ask their fans. The football we play is dreadful and will never get us out of this division. The squad was better last season. Poor recruitment under Jones and Scott. The football we play will not get fans coming back. Look at the Crawley game. Even season ticket holders did not turn up. And then Malk says Tuesday was a new low. We've had many of them this season. We were carved open like a hot knife through butter. Nathan has to get this team going, or he should. Right, we're going to have a break. We've still got loads of your comments and stuff to come to, but I want to turn our attention to Mansfield as well, which we've got to look forward to on Saturday. So we'll have a quick break and we'll be back in 1 minute or so.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. We've been looking back at the cup defeat to Leyton Orient in midweek, and now it's time to turn our attention to Saturday's visit of Mansfield Town to the Valley. Delighted to say that joining us now on Charlton Live is Clive from Mansfield Matters. Good evening, Clive. How are you doing?
Good evening, everybody. I'm fine, thank you.
Lovely stuff. Well, I'm surprised you are, to be honest, because I've just been looking at the form table. I mean, if anyone thinks our form has been bad over the last 8 games, yours is even worse. So, was it you've lost each of your last 5? Over the last 8 games, you've taken 4 points. We've taken a massive 7. What's been going on up there at Field Mill? Then, like after promotion, you seem to start the season really well, but you've just had a little bit of a dodgy run recently.
Well, there are several aspects to this answer. Firstly, is we got promoted after about 1,000 years, and therefore expectation before the season started was to cling on in there. It was certainly going to be a Star Trek moment. We were going to cling on to this league status and then build on it the following season. Despite all that, we started well, and expectation got falsely high. Then we lost a couple of key players to injury, and we've had a tough time. Having said that, no one's rolling us over. We are being beaten by the odd goal, a bit of fluke, a bad decision, a couple of mistakes, the sorts of things that you normally spread over a number of games. We've crammed them all into the last 5. And I'm hoping that on Saturday, we don't do any of that.
I'm hoping you keep it going, Clive. To be honest, we need a bit of luck. But talk a little bit about how you play. You've obviously had Nigel Clough as your manager for a while now, so I imagine you've got a pretty solid style. How do you set up, and who are some of the key danger men in your side?
Well, I think you'll be impressed by the way we play. We are a playmaking side. We like to pass the ball and be creative. Occasional mistakes doing that can be a downfall, of course, especially if the mistakes are with your centre backs. But we we play good football. And on our day, we shouldn't be frightened of anybody in this league. We gave Birmingham a really good going over, and we drew that game. We should have won it. We've actually got some good results under our belt. Ignore the last few weeks. We're all right. I have no anxiety for the season, except that runs like this tend to be sapping. And I was listening to you guys talking for a few minutes before you introduced me on, and you guys are suicidal at the moment. Get a grip, for goodness sake. I think that's the difference, isn't it? You're a team that had expectation of doing well. We're a team that had expectation of not doing well, and therefore it's coloured our attitudes towards the perversities of football.
Hey, Clive. I mean, I would say on Saturday, make sure you bring a big bag to carry the 3 points back with you, because we're exactly the kind of team you want to come up against. And we're rubbish in December. Our form always says that. But at the end of the day, you're thinking mid-table mediocrity at the moment for us is just about it.
You're not happy with that, are you?
We're not happy with that. We've been down. It's not. I'm not one of these people who say, "Oh, we deserve to be." We are exactly where we deserve to be, just due to the management team and the way we've been playing for the last X amount of years. But it's a case of when you were down in League Two and you're looking up at some of the names, and now you're playing these names again. You're thinking, right, now we're competing. How long can we compete for? You know, how's the future looking for Mansfield? Because I like Clough as a manager. But, you know, is it set up with a good youth system, or is it a case of you pick up people here and there?
I think the foundations are well laid at Mansfield. We have good owners. They're not the richest people in the world, but they pour themselves into the club. Clough has probably got the safest job in the league. He'll leave when he wants to, and that suits everybody at the moment. And he's got he's got credit in the bank, so he can have a bad run and no one's going to start shouting for his head. So I think we are where we are because of the points we've got, and we got all our points earlier in the season and we've gone a little bit sour. You guys are a bit underwhelmed by your team at the moment, and I'm guessing the manager. We really don't have any anxiety about coming to your ground tomorrow on Saturday, because actually we play better away from home. But to pick up on your point, at the beginning of the season, we looked at all these big clubs that were in League One, you know, that had not long ago been Premiership or Premier League or Championship clubs, and a little club like Mansfield looks at places like Huddersfield and Birmingham and Blackpool and Barnsley and Charlton Athletic, and they're all biggies compared to us. We're a tiny little club in a tiny little ground in a small town. And I think we do punch above our weight at the moment. So I might bring the big bag, because it's always nice to have a big bag, even if you only use it for your sandwiches.
Excellent stuff. Well, Clive, thanks for your time on Charlton Live this evening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the season, obviously starting after Saturday.
I forecast a 1-0 win to the Stags, by the way.
Oh, there we go. Well, none of us are going to go against you, to be fair. Brilliant. Cheers, Clive. Thanks for your time, mate. There we go. That's Clive from Mansfield Matters. Absolutely brilliant. Telling us to get a grip as well, which, to be fair, at times I feel like we could do with telling that, but he hasn't had to watch us all season, has he? Mike Salmon says underwhelmed, we are a disgrace. Russell says underwhelmed is an understatement, but yeah, no, he was really good character to have on the show there in Clive. Right, I want to get straight on to Nathan Jones's pre-match, because I think we need to hear it. Obviously, I haven't put in the whole press conference from earlier, just a couple of clips. This is Nathan looking ahead to the game with the Stags.
For Lloyd, Daniel and Dan, pops back in recent games. That still leaves us with maybe 5. I think Will, Kane, Zach, Tenai and Chooks to come back in. How are they, and can we expect any of those back in the near future?
We're in a much better position now. Going into a critical period, I'm really happy. You know, we got 3 of the next 4 home games at home, so it's going to be a really defining time for us this next couple of weeks. And as I said, we've got we've got a lot of our players back. Kane and Chucks and Tenai are a little way off yet, but the others, you know, are in a much better position. And as I said, it was good to have Dan back, good to have Lloyd back, obviously, Dan Potts as well. coming back in. So look, we're in a healthier position.
A lot of stats thrown around about the one league win in 8. Back-to-back defeat at the Valley probably doesn't help it either. Does that make Saturday's game really important? You said it's about a clutch of fixtures coming up, but Saturday's particular at the Valley.
Oh, look, it's important. They are important anyway. It's the next league game, so that's the most important thing. And we are aware that our league form at the minute is far too inconsistent. It really is, and we have to rectify that. And as I said, we've got a good opportunity now.
You know, Mansfield coming to the Valley. I'd say they've also got a similar stat as one league win in 8 and 5 straight league defeats. Does that make Saturday's game more difficult, or is that one really you've got to target as a win?
Look, we target every game as a win. If you can go to any single game that I've been manager of this football club and you've gone, he's played for a draw there, then I'll defy that, because literally we go out to be aggressive. It's when we're not that I'm critical of the team. If we are super aggressive and we come up against a team that can go, wow, the plays through our press that's better than us all over, I'll hold my hands up and I got no problem with that. I'm an honest guy, but that's when that's what we haven't come up against that yet. It's only our own downfall really when we haven't been the best version of ourselves, and that's the league form has been too inconsistent. So we have to rectify that, and we have to rectify that. Yeah, Saturday's a great time to do that at home. We won last year. We were unbeaten at the Valley. This year, it's been a little bit more sporadic. We've had some fantastic wins there, some big wins: Bolton, Birmingham, Portsmouth in pre-season. They didn't count for league or anything, but we've been excellent. We've had some barnstormers against Wrexham and so on. So it's been a real good place for us. But lately, and it's coincided with a lot of injuries and a lot of inconsistency in the team being able to to pick that. So look, now we're starting to get everyone back. I do believe that's when we can really start turning the corner.
Okay. In terms of, you've obviously managed a number of clubs and you've had success at other clubs. I wondered how big the challenge is here at Charlton as you face it at the moment. The team's not in the league position it wants to be in. There's obviously plenty of games to go, and I know a manager will always sort of look at that and think that things could turn. But how big is the challenge you're facing here, Nathan, compared to when you've been at other clubs?
Well, the ironic thing is it wasn't as big as the challenge that came when I first came in January. So I came in January, the club hadn't won in 18 games. It was perilously close, it played more games than everyone else. It was a point above relegation zone. If I had any fears of a challenge, then trust me, I would have stayed in pool and gone on my paddleboard for another few months. But that was the challenge then. Now, look, this club on all levels wants to move forward. That's why I came here, because it's not just about results. Results are the periphery. Results are the top thing you see. It's like an iceberg. Everything underneath has to be strong. What we have here is a real good underbelly now in terms of the culture, the environment, how we recruit, how we go about doing stuff, the discipline around the training ground, the discipline right throughout the club, the golden thread right through the academy, right through the community trust. Everything's there. At the minute, we are inconsistent with results. That won't just turn overnight. You won't just suddenly turn from a team at 18th in League One to a challenging team. But that's the aspiration we have. Now, that might take a little bit of time, but it takes everyone. It takes fans to get behind stuff. And I know there's no way I would have got behind the Crawley performance. No way. I can't defend that. But this is a good group here, a group that wants to work hard, that is learning, that is young. We got good experience here, but there's a young group as well. So it will take a little bit of time. And what we're asking is everyone get everyone together, and it's a big challenge. But this is, when you come to Charlton, it's always a challenge. Because whatever league you're in, whatever you think, there's always aspirations. They've been an ex-Premier League club. They were a Premier League club, and they wanted to get as high as they could in the Premier League. When they were Championship, they want to get into the Premier League. When they were fighting for their life in the Championship, they wanted to stay in the Championship. So there's always a challenge here. And I didn't come here because it was a cushy little number and I could live right at my Greenwich Park and ride a line bike. I've come here to work hard and to take this football club forward. And given time, I know we'll do that.
There we go. That's Nathan James speaking to Terry and to Rich earlier on today in the press day. I mean, another rallying cry at the end there, Tom. But I feel like it was this point last week when I said he gave a bit of a rallying cry, or it might have been after the Walsall game. He gave a bit of a rallying cry, and he's got to be backed up really. And so far, it hasn't.
Trying everything, isn't he? Yeah. And cue memes of him on a paddleboard in a couple of weeks if we lose that game. I mean, look at the comments. You can see him, deluded. What team's he watching? We talk about whether he's lost the fan base or not, and I appreciate that the viewers on here are a sample size of our fan base, but everyone's feeling similar sorts of ways about these press conferences now, and it shows how quickly it can turn. And from his side, he's obviously trying everything he can to turn this back around, but there's some fundamental things that are just wrong that we're all seeing, and it just doesn't seem to be happening. So, yeah, you listen to that, and it doesn't fill you with confidence, does it, at all? Or it's certainly not for me. I listen to it, and I think, like I say, I've said pretty consistently over the last few shows, I want Jones to stay. I want him to get it right. And I also do think this takes time. But this is only a message that he started to turn on when we start losing and we start struggling. When we were winning games at the start, he wasn't tempering that expectation enough for me. And yeah, it's worrying because, as I say, it doesn't fill me with confidence. And yes, he's here for a challenge, and he says he's here for a challenge. But as you say, back that up on the pitch and prove that, and put a team out there that wants to play for you and fight for you. Going back to what Mark and I were saying about the lack of care in the team, I think that Mitchell and Jones probably the only two in the side that I feel probably do go out there and give 100% probably every game, and neither of them played on Tuesday, I don't think. So yeah, it's without that you just look lost. So yeah, I'm not filled with confidence. Clive had come on and made me not worry so much about football, and then Nathan Jones has come on, and now I'm miserable about Saturday again. So when your own manager's doing that, it doesn't look great, does it?
Yeah, Gary's saying we would be near the bottom if we don't win on Saturday. What is he talking about? Yeah, Stuart saying he stopped us getting relegated last season. But Mike Salmon saying we'll be in another relegation battle if we lose on Saturday. I don't think it made it into the clip because, like I say, I can't put the whole press conference on here because it's like quite long. But I mean, he said on the press conference today that come the turn of the year we could be in the top six. Yeah, we could be, but we could equally be in the bottom four mark. I mean, 4 points above the bottom four at the moment, and again, there's a lot of teams in between us, so a lot would have to go wrong with, as well as us losing. But I don't know, that feels more like the direction you're going to head in when you've won one game in 8. You know, we've won 3 games in the league since August. You know, don't forget our run of league wins. We had 3 of them at the start, and we've won 3 since then. So we've won 3 games since the 24th of August,
which is pathetic, quite frankly. And he says, "Oh, you know, I don't set teams up to draw." I'm thinking, maybe you should. Maybe you should set up a team to draw. Then we won't get beaten by poxy, pointless small teams. And that sounds arrogant, and it's not meant to come across like that. But you know what I mean? It gets to a stage where half of it is about him. You know, oh, I didn't come here to ride my bike around Greenwich Park. Well, I'll tell you what, mate, maybe do that on a Saturday and let Curtis Jones stay on the touchline. And maybe they'll understand him a bit better. You can puddle up and down the hill. No, it's just sound bites, and you know, is it about the players? Is it about him? Is it about the journey? Is it about this? It's about, you've got to see it on the pitch, and I'd rather he said less and showed more on the pitch, and the players showed more. And we've said all season he hasn't got his first choice team. I get that. There are players who we would have, like Ramsey, who would be your first choice right back. You don't have them. So what do? Do you, I don't know, do I put Reg there? I don't want to use a Simwe, even though he's a right back. Oh, you know, Watson's out. So what do we do? Is that Zach Mitchell? I know he's injured now. And it's like sometimes he's picking for shirt numbers out of the lottery balls. And whoever's up front, 3 isn't going to work, but who's going to put, and we spent a lot of money on someone who can't score from a yard. And it's just, you know, I'd like to know if he was the one who went, oh yeah, give me a had me. I mean, I'm not blaming Gas for all our woes, but he could have scored a few more. But we've spent a lot of money on someone who could put the ball in the net, and he's not the answer. I think, you know, I'd rather have Kanu starting because I like young Dan, and I think he's a trier, is puts in the effort. Kanu and Leeburn maybe up front. I don't think Matty Godden's the worst player we've ever signed. I think he's got some quality, but he has to be in the right kind of partnership up front. He has to get the deliveries. And Nathan's got to look to his coaching staff as well. And maybe his coaching staff aren't pushing back enough and saying, let's try this, let's try something different. Because it does seem it's all down on Nathan and everyone is just sitting behind him like yes men with pencils. And maybe he's not getting challenged enough. He's got this idea. It showed on Tuesday night. His idea did not work. It didn't work in the first half. So did he change it? No. It didn't work in the second half. So what have I seen where I'm thinking, oh, yeah, we're going to turn up and maybe we'll be a bit better against Mansfield. Mitchell will come back in. Jones will come back in. The root problems are still there. How do you fit Doherty? Terry Taylor's not good. Coventry comes in, goes out. Berry, Campbell. TC's not looked the same. He started off as a striker at the start of the season, didn't work. Hasn't really looked comfortable when he's come on. So, he had opportunities and you're thinking, right now, take it. Takes too long. There's something within the core which isn't right. And I think that's down to the manager to put his hand up and say, right, it's me.
I mean, there's a few people in the chat sort of saying like what strikers they'd like to see. Carnu and Gordon for John, and Mike Salmon said the same. Colin saying it's not about the strikers, it's service and creativity. We need wingers, width, and lots of decent crosses for the strikers. And I mean, that's clearly something we've lacked this season. It's clearly not really something we've got set up in the squad either. So that's that's an issue. I wanted to pick up actually on this tweet that All Hell Let Loose sent earlier on today or yesterday, saying I asked this a week ago, but what needs to change at Charlton to start moving the club forward? He goes, do we need a new manager? Do we need new players in January? A change to the senior management team or more ownership involvement? I mean, one thing we have seen over the last few days is obviously Gavin Carter, long time listener to the show, has had his role changed slightly at Charlton. He's become like a non-executive chairman. Was that the phrase they've used? A non-executive chair of the Charlton Athletic Board. So obviously everyone's been scrambling around to try and understand what that means, Tom. I mean, suggestion perhaps that maybe the moneyed owners, so like the Americans, want someone they know and trust to have a bit of a closer look at what the in-house management team are up to, the lot who've been charging their own homework and, sort of marking their own homework, I should say, and making a few $100 on the odd scarf here and there. I mean, is that how you see it? Is that what you think this move might mean for Gavin? And obviously there has been, if you're someone who's pumped however much money into the club and you're a bit of at a distance, like the Americans, who've come over to the odd game, of course, but would you want someone looking at what's going on above Nathan as well and trying to work out where this has gone wrong?
Definitely. And I think I touched on this a little bit when I was on the show last time, and I didn't go into too much detail because I know I'll get criticised from it and pushed back, but I totally agree. And what I was speaking about last week was the whole short fuse thing. So the longer the seasons go on that we're stuck in League One, the shorter fans' fuses get. And I don't mean that as a criticism of the fans. I totally get why that's the case because we're just so desperate to get out. But if Jones is there now saying, look, it's going to take time to rebuild, he needs backing from the club to either back him or sack him, not be quiet. I know if the club had come out at the start of this season and said, look, it's going to take us 2 years to get out of this league, I know how fans would have responded to that. So I'm not saying it's as easy as saying that. But we need to see more joined up thinking between the owners and the manager and everyone. Because if as fans, at least we can see that there is a collective and there is a unity and there is something happening here, you kind of understand it. But at the moment, you've got Jones saying this is going to take time and this is a project, all the while playing hoofball football and having signed a midfield that doesn't work. You've got an ownership that came in under Charlie Methven, and we all have our own thoughts about him, front and centre of it when they bought the club and now barely hear from him, saying we want to get this team out of the division, but not really saying how they're going to do it. We've got rumours of this fourth best wage budget. Well, where's that money going? Because it looks like it's all being peed up the wall, quite frankly. And then you've got the players and it's like, do they care or do they not? And would you rather see youth teams in there? There doesn't seem to be any real cohesion across all of that. And so some sort of direction from the board or ownership or whoever, at least would give us an idea that this is something we can get behind. Because at the moment, who do we get behind? Do we get behind the players? Well, they're not really giving us anything to get behind. Do we get behind Nathan Jones? Well, he's playing a bad style of football and he's calling fans out and criticising fans in press conferences. Do you get behind the board? Well, we haven't really heard enough from them except when we're doing well. So there's so much that that is wrong. That, to go back to what I was starting to say last week and what lots of people are saying in the chat, it's not just the manager. And yes, I'm more Jones in than Jones out. But I think people who are more Jones out would agree that, okay, firstly, who are we going to get in? And secondly, yes, they might get us promoted on a bit of luck, but it's not something to build on. It's not like Ipswich. And yes, I know they pump loads of money in, and they're one example, but it's not like somebody where you could see Kieran McKenna has kept playing the same style of football all the way. And yes, they've maybe hit their ceiling now, but they've hit their ceiling in the Premier League. We're playing hoofball in League One. You go all the way back, and I seem to talk about Ben Garner way more than I should. But at least under Ben Garner, there was chat that, okay, he's going to come in and he's going to breed a style of football and it's going to feed through the squads and everyone's going to build through it. And I think I said straight after he gets signed, that's all great. You need to now give him 2-3 years to do that. We got, 3-4 months? So that's the same. Do I want Jones here playing hoofball and putting hoofball all the way through the system? No, I don't. But I would like to see him get the opportunity to readjust this midfield and give us a different way of playing and see if that works. Because ultimately, if we don't, we're just going to be in that same cycle again. So that's a very long-winded answer to your question. But in essence, I think it is everywhere. To go back to All Hell Let Loose's tweet, we just need more unity across it all. And without that, I think we're going to struggle and we're going to be here again.
Yeah, and we've been through the cycle a lot, haven't we? And I think I said it on Radio London the other day. Like, no matter what we try, if it's a new manager, if it's new ownership, it's like a disease at Charlton. Like, and there is the Charlton disease is incurable. It's like ridiculous. Like, no matter what we do, there's always something wrong, and we just can't shake that off. So Mark, Gavin listens to this show now, so he's now the non-executive chair of the board. If you were Gavin Carter, what would you be doing then in your first week to try and iron out some of these problems? Because we're coming into the January window in a few weeks' time. Likelihood is we're not going to have much more to play for this season, unless we're going to go and win the FA Cup. But what do we have to do now? Because I'm sick of being stuck in this cycle. It's crap.
I think I'd be sitting down with Jones and saying, what are your hopes, plans for the January window? Ignore December, ignore it. Who can we get rid of? Who can we hopefully get back fit? And who can we possibly get in, which will make a second half of our season a successful one? And say to him, right, and what do you think you can get out? If I can't give you this, what can you get out of the players we have got? And see what he says, and see if he says, well, I don't think I can get much more out of Hilton or Doherty or Berry or whoever, and say, right, why don't you think you can do that? You're the experienced manager who managed to keep Man City at bay. Why can you do that? Let's see what your plan is. Everyone's saying you get 2 or 3 windows. Everyone at the January window sometimes is a bit of a panic buy situation, but there's only so much you can do. You can't be relying on Chucks coming back and coming off a bench and scoring. You can't be reliant on a bigger club coming in and trying to pick up Miles now, because I don't think anyone who's watched him since he's come back with his injury would be overly impressed. So you're not going to get a big amount of money. So I'd be saying, right, what is your plan for January? Don't worry about the next few games coming up and take it from that. That's what I'd be doing if I was him.
Yeah, excellent stuff. So Michael's saying he should be feeding the upper management with how the fans are feeling. Not sure there's much else he could do, but it's up to them to make decisions. Robin's saying, Gavin, go look at what Brighton are doing to communicate a plan and expectation with us. Rustos saying, just sack Andy Scott first. David saying he came in late on the show, but the longer we're in this division, the lower attendances will get, less money coming in on a match day. All well and good. Building for the future. And then Chris pointing out these Premier League academies must be full of the next Raksakis, Gallagher's, etc. Let's start getting some decent loans in January as well. Right, this is the big match preview for Mansfield, but other than when Clive came on, we've barely talked about Saturday's game, but we've pretty much run out of time. Obviously, we'll dissect whatever happens on Saturday after the game on Sunday, so looking forward to that show. But yeah, massive thanks to everyone who's joined us for this evening's show. So much to talk about, so much wrong at the moment, trying to work out where we go from here is a bit of a head scratcher, to put it kindly. Massive thanks to everyone who's joined us live. Then cheers to Clive from Mansfield. Matt, he was a really good guest. Tom and Mark, been an absolute pleasure as always.
Cheers, Bo.
Very therapeutic.
Lovely stuff. Don't forget, there's probably still time to order your mugs just before Christmas. charltonlive.etsy.com. Otherwise, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and wherever else you see the podcast as well, so you never miss another show. But this has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. We'll see you again on Sunday morning.